old school gaming, exercising indoors, and board game producer Duncan Molloy. This is Staying In.
Yeah, no, it's literally not amazing. The reason my office, as you can see it, is just absolutely rammed full of shit is because we had to take out the dishwasher, and so obviously there was like bits of cabinets and stuff like that we had to take away. And so we put the dishwasher in. I say I did it. We hired a man, and the man came in, looked at me, went, and then wired it all up and all that sort of thing.
I don't look at you and think handyman.
Wired it all up? You mean plumbed it in and plugged it in?
This is why I will let a man do it. So basically, so let him do all that sort of stuff. And then the thing was going to be that my landlord was going to come and pick up all of these bits and pieces, because he's like, yeah, put the dishwasher in, no problem, we'll put it away, put it in storage. That was like 4 months ago now, and my office is just like a collection of shit now. It's just so I've got the exercise, I've got the bike, I've got the cabinets, I've got all of the boxes that we have from
You've got the exercise bike that's all folded up.
Yeah, well, it's because there's all the cupboard stuff. I would be using that exercise bike a little bit more. And also, Dan, perfect for you. I've been hitting the gym recently. Obviously, as you can see, I'm beach body ready now.
Washboard.
And yeah. I've taken a leaf out of your book, Dan. I was so impressed by all the little videos that you take. All the little videos that you take of yourself. Oh, look. Oh, here's me doing an exercise. Look. I've got to have a glass of water. I've been inspired by you.
Let me just clarify. I think I sent you one video like that after I'd walked 11 miles. I sprayed water in my face and said never again. That's the extent of it. Let's not pretend like I'm doing a daily blog of my running.
Show off. Absolute show off.
Pete, what's the cost of an exercise bike vis-a-vis the cost of an actual bike?
Well, there's the monetary cost, you're right, Duncan, is much higher. But the cost of not having to go outside is too great, basically. What I do when I exercise, and this is on my exercise bike that's folded up and dusty, and also down at the gym, is I listen to like podcasts and audiobooks and stuff like that. And I've realised that if I actually did all that sort of stuff, if I went out on a bike, I think I'd get bored. I get really bored of exercise. I just find it so tedious. It's just like, yeah, all right, I'm pumping iron, I'm firing the guns. I don't know. And so my brain is always just like, it just like wanders off into different places. And I get so fucking bored of it. So I think again the human cost there. I think I might die if I put my headphones in and have all this lovely podcast and stuff while I'm exercising.
Because on an actual bike you have to do things like balance, maybe go up the odd hill.
Avoid children, yeah.
Avoid children. Well, this is the thing, Duncan. So, like, would you, if you got do you cycle?
I haven't cycled actually since I moved to the UK properly. So I moved to the UK about 3 years ago. God, old.
So like 3 years ago you were cycling around and having a lovely time. Were you cycling on the roads or were you cycling on the paths? Because I don't know about you, but I'd want to cycle on the paths.
I was cycling in cycle lanes predominantly, which I might break this conversation a little bit. Although it's fair to say, if you're cycling in the cycle lanes in Dublin, the city council has decreed that cars are allowed to park in bike lanes for more than 50% of the stretch of a bike lane. So if pro tip for county councils out there, if a car is allowed to park in your bike lane, that's not a bike lane, that's a car park. So yeah, I do see where you're coming from. I will recklessly leave one headphone ear in.
It's reckless.
See, I kind of do live dangerously, and I may not ride a bike, but I do kind of, I will walk or I've started trying to run at least part of the way home, but I have both of my headphones in, so I've naturally now always run to the very edge of the path because I know bikes are going to come up behind me and I'm not going to hear them ringing their little bell. And any time I have to maybe step around a bush or walk past someone, I always have to do the check behind me to make sure there's no one coming. You make a few mistakes like that and you quickly learn to always look behind you when you're moving on the path, because that gets dangerous.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I nearly got shot while running? I'd moved to Exeter, and I wear glasses, but I wasn't comfortable because they were my only pair. And when I was slightly younger and I was living at home, my mum sat on my last pair and broke. She did it twice. So I was always quite paranoid about my glasses and stuff. So when I went running, I wouldn't wear my glasses. So everything basically looked like a kind of impressionist painting, because I hadn't got contact lenses because I couldn't afford them and stuff. I couldn't justify paying for them. So I went for a run, and I'd only just moved to the area, so I didn't know I was looking for a running route. So I thought I'd run around to find a route. And basically, I accidentally ran out of the city. And I ran into these woods.
Right. No, can we pause that just for 1 second? How do you accidentally run out of a city?
Well, I just carried on running and thought, there must be a turning off. I was looking for paths that would take me cross country, into the fields and stuff. But I just kept following the road.
Woolworths, Marks and Spencers, the gym. I
like the idea of Kris accidentally kind of running out of the city gates and into countryside. Holy crap! What happened?
Just everything getting more and more and more sparse, apart from the Arguses and Sainsbury's, which are just getting bigger and bigger.
The industrial parks. But anyway, I ran to the woods, and then I looked through my vision. I had to get quite close, and there was this police crime tape, connecting these trees and stuff. It was dotted around this kind of perimeter, and I realised it wasn't a crime scene. I'd ran into the centre of a paintballing thing. And in the middle of a paintballing fight, I was the only one, wasn't wearing goggles, couldn't see, had no gear or anything like that, and I was literally caught in the crossfire, and we got completely lost. It started chucking it down with rain. I ran out of the woods, didn't know where I was, met this kind of toothless old lady who just kind of cackled inanely at me. I lived in this particular area in the city that sounded very similar to another area in the city, and I got them mixed up. So she pointed me in the direction of where I thought I needed to go. It sent me about 10 or 15 miles off course. I eventually made it home. To this day, I don't know where I went because I couldn't see any of it. I didn't have one of those nice fancy apps on my phone which told me where it mapped my route or anything like that. It was the least successful run of my life.
Kris, are you sure you didn't just kind of read a fairy tale and then fall asleep and then just had a nightmare about it or something like that? Because that's just bizarre.
Let's see, dropping my breadcrumbs behind me. Yeah.
And just for future reference, anytime you start a sentence with, have I ever told you the story of? The answer is no.
No. Or tell it again.
Yeah.
It's very clever. So, talking about getting lost, Kris, you've been playing The Witness, right?
Yeah. I've literally just been playing a bit of it now before we came on to record this show. Have any of you heard of this game, The Witness? It's basically...
It's by one of the guys who did Stanley Parable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. It's got smatterings of that. Basically, it's almost like The Prisoner.
Is it Jonathan Blow?
It's Jonathan Blow, the guy who did Braid.
Oh, I'm mixing it up with something else. Sorry.
But you wake up on this island, and basically there's just a series of puzzles. Some of them are very intricate and are in front of you, and you just solve that and it takes you on to the next level. Some are small cogs in larger puzzles which stretch over the entire island. And it's a bit like the Crystal Maze. You'll have a desert section, you'll have this kind of lovely kind of arboretum, there'll be a quarry. I'm currently playing it at the moment, and it's the first game I've ever played that's actually genuinely given me motion sickness.
Oh, really?
I've never had that. Yeah, of all the games in the world, it's not a first-person shooter. It's not it's not a racer. It's not like a flight simulator. I don't know. I had to slow down the speed of the cursor moving around because in the game, I was turning my head so fast and running so fast around this island that actually with these bright, saturated colours, I couldn't understand why the game was making me feel quite sick every time I played it.
Were you wearing your glasses, Kris?
No, I was sat about 2 inches away from the screen, so that'd probably do it.
Were you trying to create your own version of virtual reality? So all your peripheral was taken up by the screen?
It pretty much was. It was overwhelming. But it's an interesting game. Some of the puzzles are doing my nut in a bit. It literally doesn't hold your hand at all, this game. There's no tutorial.
Somebody, because I've not played it, I've got it set on my PlayStation waiting to be played. Somebody I know made the comparison with a game called Myst.
Right.
And Riven and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys know Myst. MYS2. It was like an old...
It was one of the big transition points of the old adventure games. It was the one that people's mums played as well as themselves, you know. It was like,
right?
Your uncle who knows how to use Windows 98 has played Myst and wants you to know that video games are a thing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, Duncan.
Pete's like, I love that game.
No, it's... Yeah. But it was, wasn't it? It was like a first-person exploration, doesn't hold your hand. Slightly weird. That was what Myst was. Like, so is the Witness like? I'm trying to picture it. Is it quite realistic looking? Or?
Yeah, it's quite. There's a cell shaded kind of quality to it. It's kind of smacks a bit of Firewatch, in that it's very similar to that in terms of its visuals. Obviously, the Firewatch is located in a very distinct landscape. This one mixes it up quite a bit. As I said before, the different kind of environments. But it's a slow burn, I must admit. I don't play it for prolonged periods of time because the puzzles I find personally quite tricky. And I'm a person who likes puzzle games. I like my puzzles. But I think because I don't really see a semblance to a narrative with this, it's the equivalent really for me having like a bumper book of like 50 Sudoku puzzles. And I can flick through it at any point because there's no natural structure to this game. You can literally go back and forth across the island. There's no kind of sense of linearity to it. It's completely open world.
So how does the difficulty progression work if it's totally open world? Do you just stumble into the really hard ones by accident, or how does does it funnel you towards those?
Some of the worlds they ease you in. They start off with a basic variant of a particular kind of puzzle, and they slowly get harder and harder, and you can kind of work that through. But if you kind of blunder in by accident, it gets quite difficult. There are some nuances in the fact that, for whatever reason, you can't get behind a particular door until you've solved this puzzle. So it does control the difficulty level that way around. So there are some bits of the game I can't get to unless I solve a particular puzzle, say, for example. But I'm gonna stick at it. It's gonna be probably like what Dan does with his games, or pretty much every game.
Yeah.
A labour of love. So I'll probably get it done in about 3 years, which is usually how much Dan spends on a game.
Yeah, that's how long I take. I like to take my time.
So it's a slow burn. So it's nice to have in the background. I'll just put it on when I need something that's a little bit more relaxed.
So is there any kind of narrative at all, or is it just strictly just a hodge? Not I say a hodgepodge makes it sound bad, but kind of like a list of puzzles.
It does the kind of classic thing that that BioShock kind of championed, which is you happen upon these little tape recordings and you play them. They're kind of like philosophical musings, kind of existential kind of conundrums and hypotheticals. I discovered this bunker where it was incredible. I was in this projection room and they showed a documentary from the 70s by the BBC about the future. And I just stood and watched that. So there's a kind of it's almost like it's trying to echo Lost down, which I know is a series that you hold very dearly. There are echoes of Lost, actually.
Okay.
Or trying to...
I mean, I remember when it first kind of got announced, and in the trailers they come out for, I just had no idea what it was. And literally, you telling me this is the first thing I've known about it, other than I knew it was vaguely puzzle related, but I just had no idea whatsoever what it was. It seemed just like It seemed like there was not really much to it. It looked like it was just a pretty game. But now that you mention that, that does sound like there's more depth to it.
Yeah, I think it's just getting to that depth, getting past the kind of the puzzles. Really, I think is the key thing. It's not a game I recommend you just buy and just have it solely the only thing you play. You need something running alongside it, really, to kind of justify it, I suppose.
It's like a palate cleanser type game.
It's kind of but it's £30. It's not a palate cleanser that's £30. I don't know. I took a punt because loads of people were telling me it was a perfect game for me. So, when mates say that to you, it's like this game was made for you, Kris. You need to play this game.
To be fair, a game all about walking around doing puzzles does sound like it was made for you.
Definitely.
Have you been playing anything else, or is the Witness that's been taking up all your time?
I've just come back from Munich, and when I was on the plane and stuff, I've been playing those Room Escape games on mobile. The Room. Has anyone played the Room series?
I love the Room series.
Oh,
They're great.
yes.
I've just done the second one. I'm going to buy the third one at some point soon. It's just because I mean, it isn't like a new genre of gaming. They've been around for like over a decade. I used to play things like the Crimson Room online and stuff like that. It's a great series, but this is just it's very beautiful. It's very arresting imagery, and there's just something quite pleasing and kind of harmonious in trying to kind of solve these kind of combinations, and I think the difficulty level is ranked really well. You don't feel like your hand has been held too much, but at that same time you do feel stretched a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Duncan, I don't know about you, but one of the things I found like really amazing about the entire series, but the thing that I think really grabbed me from, because I played them in sequence, like one of the things that I find really interesting about them is this idea of like the ultra high quality object. Do you know what I mean?
No, I do.
Like the when you're playing the first one's obviously all around, manipulating the screen and manipulating things on a single box, and the idea is that the box continues to open, and it's how on earth can this box exist? And later games do different things with wider spaces and so on. But like this idea of having a physical a physical object that you interact with in a really tactile kind of way. I really love that.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, the niche that the Room really fills was Chrissy, my other half. I will often recommend video games to her, and she is not one to play video games, but she generally tends to really enjoy them. She just won't ever suggest them because it's just not her thing. But when we had the Room on the go, it became the thing for us that was either in bed or sitting on the couch, replacing doing a crossword together, passing the phone back and forth, leaning over each other. It feels really tactile. You're exactly right. It's like having a toy and a puzzle at the same time. It's there's relatively naff puzzle gift sets that are, generally speaking, an Office Christmas Secret Santa. I know this person is into puzzles but don't know what to buy them, therefore I will buy them this £10 wooden thing that feels really nice, but just you click it once and you solve it and it sits there. But it's like a digital implementation of one of those, which just expands in ways something like that never could. So it gives you a feeling of actually engaging with a physical object, even though you're just dealing with a digital implementation. But I'm going to have to stop using words like digital implementation. My God, I've been working in games for too long. It feels like a really nice toy that's really fun to sit down with somebody else on the couch and play with,
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly when it uses the accelerometer, for example, in your phone. So you're actually having to tilt your phone to solve particular puzzles as well.
I think they only did that for the first one.
Yeah,
I think
just the first one.
They edged it out for number 2 and 3.
Probably because there's still phones that don't have an accelerometer, perhaps, on Android.
Possibly.
They find a really nice balance as well of in a really limited physical space, or kind of space within the game. They'll do a really, really good job of letting you have 2 or 3 puzzles on the go without ever being confused as to which one you're working on at a given time.
Yeah.
So they've really, really clearly differentiated, like, this is this puzzle, this is puzzle X, this is puzzle Y. And if you're getting stuck, you just flick between them really, really quickly and build and build and build.
Absolutely. And it never feels like the developer wants to it's fireproof. Fireproof never wants you to sit there and feel stupid. It always wants you to have, roughly, they clearly have an idea of you're going to get X number of hours of entertainment out of this thing, and that's it. And that's okay, because we want to give you this really highly polished, not scripted, but very focused, you will be able to solve this. Like, literally anybody will be able to solve this if given enough time to just sit there and go, oh, okay, well, maybe I do need just one more little hint. It's a nice evolution of those room escape games that doesn't force you to try and, like, crack the mind of the people who made it. And that's what always put me off with a lot of those adventure games. That's kind of what put me off with stuff like Myst and why I've not booted up The Witness and stuff like that, because it often feels a little bit like I'm sort of like CIA profiling the designer, whereas like with The Room, it's like I know that Barry Mead wants me to like see all of this game by the end of it. It's really interesting.
Completely. So it's like that kind of adventure game logic, which comes from like text adventure games, where you just have to come up with the right noun and you just have to keep going until you click it. Kind of evolves into something like Monkey Island, whereby the puzzle is just about, I want you to think in this way, even if that way doesn't make any sense. Whereas in something like The Room, it feels like an adventure game, but it is pure puzzle. It's like a good mystery novel. Everything you need to figure it out is presented in front of you in a kind of logical enough way, and it's on you if something is a bit obtuse rather than on the game, which is just a really clever bit of design.
Pete, whilst Kris has been kind of playing on like the latest kind of mobile devices, he's been playing The Witness, a brand new game. What are the kind of really kind of fashionable, up to date, brand new, cutting edge games have you been playing?
Now, Dan, I see what you've done there, but I am here to tell you that Backgammon is 2016 Game of the Year, basically.
Backgammon?
Backgammon, Kris. I've been playing Backgammon.
Why?
So I got... what do you mean why? Because it's one of...
Where did that come from?
It's the greatest game of all time. So Sam and I were like, hey, let's play video games. And then neither of you dweebs wanted to hang out and play video games with us, / you weren't available.
We were on holiday.
We were both in other countries.
Yeah. Dweebs. So so Sam and I were like, oh, I know, let's play games together. And I was like, yeah, hooray. And then Sam said, oh, why don't we play that game that you sent me, Tristoy? Now, and I was like, oh, no, I don't really want to play Tristoy with him because I know that it's not very good. So we started playing Tristoy in co-op, and it was complete and utter garbage, and I just really just could not get on with it at all, which is a shame because the setup for it's quite good. Anyway, but so we started playing that, and we were like, yeah, this isn't really Castlevania plus an action game plus just not the production values isn't really what I want. So we were like, but we've decided to sit down and play games together. So I was like, look, Sam, I've got a copy of a spare code for Backgammon Blitz by Nomad Games, So he was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, let's play that then. That'd be really funny, wouldn't it? Like Friday night, ha 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 ha. Like we'll play Backgammon. That'd be fun. Almost like hate watching a TV series. We'd hate play a game and be like, ha, Backgammon, that's lame. 2 hours later, we realised that Backgammon is basically amazing. So that was happening, and I was like, oh man, Backgammon's really good. And then I got like a backgammon, like I dreamt about backgammon that night. I was like, oh, I need to play some more backgammon. So then in the morning I woke up and I downloaded a whole bunch of backgammon games. It turns out not very many on mobile are very good, with the exception of a game called, funnily enough, Backgammon, by a company called Wildcard. They make I think so far out of all the backgammon games I've played, they've made the best one. Anyway, so I downloaded it onto my mobile telephone and was like, oh, this is all fun. And then, guys, I came down with the worst cold ever. And I was basically out for about 4 or 5 days, right? But the one thing I could do was sit in bed and play backgammon on my mobile phone. And as I was feverishly playing this backgammon game by this Wildcard Studios, first of all, brilliant implementation of backgammon, really lovely, like very, very high class. All the little things that you want in there, like you select your nip, and then you get like a highlight as to where you can go with it. It's got doubling, it's got AC-doocy, it's got like all that sort of stuff. Like, oh, it's so good. Anyway, so I was playing that, and as I was playing it, I was realising, man, backgammon is basically a cross between chess and Magic the Gathering.
Now, Pete, I want to trust you, but I don't.
Why? I can see chess, but why magic? What is it about that?
Okay, so there's chess in so much as there are strategies that you can employ, right? Like there are strategic reasons as to why you would want to move your playing piece, which are often they're called lots of different things. Sam and I call them nips because A, that is a thing that they can be called, and B, it's funny because but like there are strategic reasons as to when and where you would want to place your nips, depending on the score on the 2 dice that you roll that you get that determines how much movement you can do. Like from the very beginning, like there are basically optimum moves that you can do for every single dice roll that's possible. There is like an opening strategy, much like in chess, like that you can follow. And it will give you certain options and certain flexibility when it comes to beating opponents. So there's this chess-like element of actual, real, genuine strategy of, okay, so am I gonna hold back in my own quarter? So backgammon's got 4 different quarters where you start in your home quarter. Well, you start in your own half, but you have a home quarter, and the idea is to get into your opponent's home quarter and then off of the board. And so one of the tactics, for example, is to stay in your own half for as long as possible. So like move things very, very gradually forward. Move your nips very gradually forward. And essentially,
I like the fact that every time you say nips, you smirk.
And as that's happening, you're basically guaranteeing that as your opponent comes towards you with their pieces, they are risking being caught out. Because essentially when you have 2, checkers, let's say, so that I don't keep laughing about the word nips, when you've got 2 checkers, you can't be taken. But when you have 1 checker on the board, you can take your opponent's checker, right? The player who has had one of those pieces taken off has to put the piece back onto the board before they can do any other moves. Now, that's all well and good, but you can block your opponent from coming back onto the board, right? And this is where some of the magic stuff starts to come in. Because not only are you mitigating luck, that's a huge part of this. So it could also just say like poker or something like that. One of these strategy-esque card games, let's say, with a high element of luck in it. Not only are you mitigating your own risk by making sensible strategies or figuring out, okay, well, if I get these numbers in the next row, like this is the strategy that I can take, or here are general things that I can implement to make sure that my pieces are moving forward. There's also this almost like Magic's mana curve, right? Or Netrunner's
ice. Is it ice?
Yeah, ice. Like this mana curve idea of if you can get further up the mana curve than your opponent, then you can do more, you can play more cards more quickly. Well, if you can get pieces into your opponent's quarter quicker, then you can start blocking off the areas that your opponent has to use to get back into the game. There's so many different strategies, so much there that I'm absolutely,
So the game you've been playing, those Backgammon Blitz, what does the Blitz element bring to it?
So that there's 2 of them. So there's the Backgammon by Wildcard. That's the mobile one that I've been playing. I've been playing many hours of that. Sam and I have been playing via like turn by turn, like asynchronous play. We've been playing this backgammon game on our mobile telephones. That's been a whole lot of fun. And I think so far that's the best one I've played. And certainly the best free one. And then the one that I think is like the highest caliber production, and it really baffles me that it's not on iPad, it's a real shame, or iPhone or something like that, is Backgammon Blitz, and that's from Nomad. And Blitz, you're quite right there, Dan. You've noticed that they've added an extra word there, and what that essentially means is there's the ability to so the Blitz elements are like extras. So you'll quite like this, Duncan, I think. What they do is they take the set game of backgammon, and then they start adding in these sort of extra rules where, so for example, you can freeze nips in place, and that will cost you an action. So you get up to 3 actions within each game. you have unlimited. You can have unlimited games within a match, but three of these actions per game. So you'll freeze one of these nips in place, or you can swap nips, and so there's these extra elements that they bring in. So I've been playing that on PC. That's also on, bizarrely, it's on PC. Brilliant. It's also on PS3 and Vita. And I'm genuinely considering buying the Vita because I just want to. I want to sit there. I want to sit there with a touchscreen playing backgammon because it is a really good version of backgammon. It's really lovely, super high detailed 3D, unbelievable 3D detail on these backgammon sets that you get in there. Oh,
I just love the fact, Pete, that you'll have every possible type of backgammon apart from an actual physical board of backgammon.
I know.
Do you know what's more 3D than a touchscreen, Pete?
And tactile.
But is that the room thing again? Is that each of these in Backgammon Blitz, each of these boards just feels like I could never afford a board like this. Super lovely, this leather set. Oh my god, the leather set's amazing. But yeah, and so it turns out backgammon is absolutely incredible. In fact, I might have bought a backgammon strategy guide.
Oh my word! And we talk about Sam and his dice obsession. What is this?
But it's like I'm seeing it like it's people buy chess guidebooks, right? People study chess strategies. I've got to the point with backgammon now where I'm like, yeah, I've got.
So you want to be like the Gary Kasparov of the backgammon world?
I want to improve my backgammon game, and I've got to a certain level now with a certain quality of play. I can understand when people are trying to make certain strategies. I can understand when people are totally going to go on a run and just basically just absolutely rush ahead. But and when they're going to try and fall back a little bit, I can mitigate some of those strategies. But right now, I need a little bit more education to take my backgammon game to the next level.
So I mean, I've never played backgammon.
You should, mate. It's great. I'll send you a code for it. It's brilliant.
Well, apparently, Dan, you haven't lived.
Chris and Duncan, have either of you guys played backgammon or anything? Those kind of games. I mean, I remember playing checkers when I was younger.
I played backgammon once a long time ago. And I really want to be wrong because I have a bit of a charity shop board game obsession, and I have passed by so many really beautiful backgammon copies for a $5 or less. But I don't think it's very good. But I hope I'm wrong, and I'm based on Pete's recommendation, I am going to give it another shout. But it does seem to me like the things we would savage a more modern game for, the randomness of the roll of a dice or the turn denial or anything else, are things that it falls prey to. And if we're going to
definitely
go with one of those classic games, then you shouldn't play backgammon. You guys should start playing cribbage instead. Cribbage is the best. I love cribbage.
Cribbage is very good. I played that in a pub years ago.
I've not played cribbage.
That's something about cribbage. It's a nice pub game.
My only memory of cribbage is my aunt used to be the landlady of a pub. We'd go and kind of see her and stay there. And I remember you've got a group of old men in the corner of the pub. I remember them just sitting there with their matchsticks playing cribbage. Yeah. And that's my sole memory of anybody ever playing cribbage, is those old men in the corner of a pub with their matchsticks.
Is this like a Magic versus Hearthstone thing?
Two games enter, one game leaves.
It might be. I mean, it is the competition of nice wooden components that aren't chess sets, that are those kind of classic games. So cribbage, I've only started playing about 2 months ago because my prospective father-in-law came across a set while we were in a pub down the road from here in Oxford when he was visiting, and the battery on my phone had died at the time, so we were trying to puzzle together the rules from what little I had read about it as somebody who's kind of generally into game design, and him as somebody who played it as a merchant sailor at sea 40 years ago, when he was 16, going, I think Yeah, I think this is probably... Yeah, it'd be fine. Yeah, no, this is probably what the rules are.
Right.
Yeah. And subsequently, I bought a rule book, gave it to him last time I was home in Ireland. But each player has 4 cards, and they'll discard 2 of those cards to the middle of the table. It has this weird combination of elements whereby it has this board with the little pegs, and which is the kind of iconic thing about cribbage, that you might see it down the pub. You see a bunch of old men playing with like matchsticks standing up or whatever else it is. That's literally just a scoreboard. But because the scoring is a little bit complex, the reason every player has 2 pegs is because they'll keep one peg where it is and go, okay, well, I got 8 points now, so they'll count 8 points up from the existing peg and put a second peg in, and then when they get the next set of points, they'll just take out the first peg and count up from that one again. So it's just a really clever little scoring aid for scoring that could be quite fiddly.
Right, okay.
So what I'm trying to do, out of the cards that I have, there's some cards face up on the table like there would be in Hold'em, and there is some cards in my hand, and I'm trying to play the cards in my hand both. I'll play a single card, you'll play a single card, I'll play another single card, but you can score by the order in which you play the cards. You can score based on just what your hand is and how you can put your hand together in sets. You score based on what the spare hand is in the middle of the table. But the secret to cribbage that you won't clock unless you've played it quite a lot is that cribbage is actually a racing game. So the first person to get to a score of 60 is the flat winner. And you always score the person whose turn it is second. So I know if it's my turn, I'm going to score my own hand and I'm going to score this bonus hand. But if it's tight and you have a high enough score, so long as you're first past the post, it doesn't matter how good my set is. So if I'm looking at my hand and I'm close and I have cards that I can use to sabotage the kind of bonus hand that the other player is going to have, I have a little bit of push your luck of going, actually, do I hang on to these and try and see if I can get enough just to get me to that finish line? Or do I try and play it safe and try and cripple you for another turn and hopefully get in the turn after that?
Duncan, I take it back. I don't think it's like I don't think backgammon to cribbage is like Hearthstone is to Magic. I think it's Hearthstone to Netrunner.
It's so unnecessarily complex. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like, it sounds amazing though. It does sound like I'm gonna have to. Do you just have to have like a deck of cards and a matchbox? Yeah, is that all you need?
You can get like a little cribbage board for about a £5 or £6, but it's like very few. You'll get it on Amazon and you'll get overcharged for it. But
basically, what he wants to know is there an iOS version of cribbage?
Yeah, I'm downloading an iOS version.
Is there Cribbage Blitz?
Cribbage with Your Grandpa is a game I came across literally today, which is a highly detailed avatar creation system where you can create an avatar of your own granddad and then play cribbage against that granddad avatar.
It's incredible.
I have not played it. It's about £3, but I can already wholeheartedly recommend it.
Okay, yeah. Sterling recommendation. I'm going to totally download that.
It sounds a bit like a Werther's original advert.
Yeah.
But Duncan makes a really interesting point. Like, because I've recently gone back to playing cards. Actually, just a standard pack of cards, just playing card games. And I haven't done that for quite a while, actually. Maybe when I'm travelling and stuff, like when I used to go travel and stay in hostels and stuff, it's always good to have a deck of cards with you. Just if you ever caught out connecting flights and stuff, even if you can't find someone to play with, you can always have a game of solitaire or something. But I've recently been playing a game I used to play when I was younger, which my family loved, which is it goes under different names. It's like a hostel card game, Shithead.
Shithead.
Yeah, we played.
Or apparently, because we
recently.
looked at it on Wikipedia, there's other names for it. Karma's another name for it, but I like Shithead, and I love when you go to a hostel, you play Shithead with somebody. Everyone's got the slightly different variants on the rules. It's basically a cheaper version of Uno.
I like the fact that today we've taken the geek culture and just taken it back decades and say you don't need any of this new fancy stuff. Just go back with some counters, some cards, some matches, and you've got 3 classic games that will while away all the hours of the day. I feel the need, after all the backgammon, cribbage and shithead stories to I don't know, return to modern life, let's say. And as we're talking about games, I mean, we go back to a game we talked about before, and Duncan, you suggested talking about Time Stories versus Pandemic Legacy. Now, I'm aware of Pandemic Legacy because I think we've talked very briefly about it before. I don't know what Time Stories is.
Yeah, this kind of ties back into what we were saying earlier about Myst and arguably The Witness as well. Time Stories is an old school point and click adventure game as a board game.
Sorry, could I just say, Pete's eyes like a meerkat just lit up when he heard old school point and click.
Yeah. That sounds great.
So I went into it with extremely high expectations because people whose opinions I really, really trust really, really love it. The way that the game works is that you all select a character. The basic theme is Quantum Leap, essentially. You're all playing these time travelers who are going to jump back into the bodies of these characters in the past. Try to figure out what the problem is in the past, and if you don't do it in enough time, you just go back and start again like a time loop. So it's kind of Groundhog Day meets Quantum Leap theme, and it means that each different expansion can be in a totally different setting because they're all totally unconnected. But in practice, what that means is you spend some time going between different locations on the map, and I mean the game is beautiful looking visually, because you go into a room and you lay out 5 cards, which are going to be a tableau of a single image across all 5 cards, or 6 or 7 or however many, and then you will choose which location in that room you want to go to based on what interesting thing you think is on the card. And each player can go to a different place within the room, but all players have to be in the same room at the same time. Then once you go to your location, you'll kind of flip the card over and it'll give you some information. It'll give you a challenge, like a fight that you have to go through, or a kind of conversation you have to blag, or a kind of multiple choice thing, or an item that you can keep and use somewhere else later on. It does a really, really great job of taking what are traditional video game mechanics and putting them in a physical sense. But it's selling itself as a storytelling game, and it does a really bad job of telling a story. And what I found particularly frustrating about it is something I find particularly frustrating with video games, and I know I'm kind of alone here, but branching paths. Somebody will look at something like one of the Telltale adventure games whereby you're kind of choosing your actions, and they'll say the fact that the overarching plot ends in the same point no matter what your action is. They will tout that as a flaw. But for me, if I spent 30 quid on a game, hypothetically, I don't want to have to play the game 4 times to get all of what the story is. And for me, what gives a better feeling of agency is not if the plot changes massively because of a decision that I've made, but how I feel about the plot, or what my relationship to the plot is, changes because of the decision that I've made. And what it also gives you is that somebody spends hours and hours and hours crafting really interesting bits of story, and I might never know they exist, despite me having paid for them. So what Time Stories does, which leans into, for me, the worst aspects of this, is its core system is that you have to get through it as quickly as you can. You have to use up as few time units as you can, and we were just referring to them as minutes, so it will take 5 minutes to go over here. And because of that, it's actively discouraging you from engaging in the story or the characters or the puzzles in any meaningful way, because it's saying, get this done and out of the way so you can move on to the next thing and win. Whereas Pandemic Legacy, which is a very, very different game and doesn't pretend to be about storytelling, it's much more a puzzle game with kind of like a light RPG campaign system bolted on. That ultimately, if I wanted to be cynical about it, is like somebody took a bunch of mini expansions and strung them together with a story. But because it's doing that thing of making you invested in the characters, even though the story beats are the same no matter who plays them, your relationship to those story beats are totally different, and you're absolutely invested in what it is, even though it's the lightest of light touch. You can tell the story of Pandemic Legacy in a couple of paragraphs of text, but you care about it, and they care about it, and you feel connected to it. And the other thing is, I mean, Pandemic Legacy is, I don't know, 50, 60 quid, and I'm going to play it about at a minimum of 12 times. So you play, it's over 12 months. You play each month. If you win one month, you move on to the next one. If you fail, you play it again. If you fail again, you move on no matter what. So between 12 and 24 times, you'll play it at about, I don't know, an hour a game, an hour and a half a game.
Yeah.
And I hate...
Sam and I are currently in February at the moment, where we've not failed yet, actually.
Chrissy and I are in September and we've not failed yet, and rather than that making us...
Oh my word, that's impressive.
Rather than that making us more confident, it's making us much more nervous, because we now desperately want a clean sweep. But I'm definitely getting my value for money out of that, and I hate to break like an art form down into commerce in that sense, but I got a gift of Time Stories. Time Stories is also about 40 quid. We played it in 1 4-hour session, and it's done. It's not replayable.
Right.
And it's just not good enough for that. And I know I'm in the minority in that opinion, but we found, after we finished it, we just shuffled through the rest of the deck, which is supposed to be kept secret, just to see was there anything we missed. And that told us two things. One, it told us what looked like the best puzzle in the game was something we didn't get to see. And the other thing that it told us was that all of the story bits that we had been promised would be kind of hinted at, or were hinted that there was a resolution and something was tied up, I must have just missed it, weren't tied up. There was just threads started that went nowhere, or characters that would appear out of nowhere that it felt like I should know who they are, but it's never explained and nothing is connected. And that was immensely frustrating.
I think that is the issue with games like that have kind of the branching storylines. I mean, I've not really experienced that at all with board games. I mean, in certain video games I've had that, and so for example, a game like Heavy Rain, whereas it does have branching storylines, pretty much it ends the way they all kind of end roughly the same way. You'll obviously have slight variances. With those games, I very rarely ever feel the need to go back to them, because even if they do have many different endings, I always kind of feel that was my playthrough.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
But fortunately, I think the games that I've played like that, they haven't felt like I've also missed out on a lot. I felt like I've got pretty much everything the game is going to give me, and it just ended in a way that mine ended. So I don't think anything I've played before has had that kind of same feeling you had with Time Stories, where actually some of the best bits of the game they just weren't accessible to you because the game didn't put you in that direction. Most of the times I've played,
it actively told me to avoid them.
Yeah, so I mean that seems like a really odd game mechanic. Decision. Unless it wants you to go back and replay the game, and then your problem is that you're making conscious efforts to go against what your gut naturally tells you, because you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to go this way just because I want to see what's over there, as opposed to I want to play the game the way I want to play the game. So if I replayed Heavy Rain now, I would do things differently, even though that wouldn't be what my instinct told me to do, because I wanted to see something else. And so I agree with you in that sense, that I'm not someone who ever wants to replay games. Games for me, and I think that's why I love the idea of Pandemic Legacy and kind of games like that, where you're given that theoretically that one playthrough, and then it's done, because the game should be able to stand on its own and give you an experience. I love it if the experiences are different for different people, but it should give you a full, complete experience, which by the sounds of it, Time Stories, I'm sure it does for some people, but it's not guaranteed for every single person.
It sounds a bit like the plot to that Tom Cruise film, Edge of Tomorrow, where he basically dies about 100 times through it until he gets it right. He has to keep repeating the same thing until he gets the right combination, and he ends up seeing...
No, Chris, that's called Groundhog Day.
that was completely unnecessary, Pete.
But it is Edge of Tomorrow and Groundhog Day. But do you remember in Edge of Tomorrow and Groundhog Day, when he goes back to do another thing, everything up to that point is a montage? Imagine if you were watching Groundhog Day, but you have to get to the interesting bit in the day, you have to go through the entire day again.
Oh, that would bore me.
It's like going through. It's like going for a combination lock and trying every possible number combination.
Yeah.
Just. Duncan, have you played? Are you going to get Seafall? Because that's the next Legacy game, isn't it? It's coming. It's getting quite mixed reviews, but.
I'm not going to shill any of my own games because that's in poor taste. But I think what I'm worried about with Seafall is that both Pandemic Legacy and Risk Legacy are built on really, really solid core games as is. And Risk Legacy felt like a first draft of a really exciting new idea. And Pandemic Legacy feels like a second draft, like a great execution of a great idea. And I think Seafall is going to... My suspicion is, based on the way that it's been reviewed so far, it's going to stumble, but it's necessary in some ways. That, like, Seafall feels like a learning exercise on the road to what these types of games will become.
Right. Okay.
It's a brand new design from the ground up, and a lot of the... I say this not having played it, but a lot of the criticism that I've read of it is that it just takes way too long to get going, and that actually the story elements of it are genuinely amazing, but like to start getting to the interesting stuff, you have to play between 5 and 6 sessions of 2 hours or longer. Jeez. So it's like having a JRPG with a great story that kicks in after 15 hours of gameplay.
So it's what you're saying is this is Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. From the sound of things. Now, again, I say this not having played it, and because it's my job, I might just buy a copy and spoil it for myself just to see how it works.
It's research. It's research. Like, this tax deductible. Like, surely
it's literally tax deductible.
This is expenses.
But I think it's a game that's interesting and important as opposed to worth recommending, maybe, from the sound of things.
Right.
Okay, so I'll wait for Pandemic Season 2 then.
Sorry, Chris.
Is it? Do we reckon? I mean, is this kind of? Obviously, I'd probably say over the last few years, and I'm basing this on the fact that I've only become interested in the past few years in more board games. There are kind of this resurgence in them. Is this where they're all heading now, or is this just still a niche? This kind of legacy idea.
I think it's going to become less of a niche, but no, it's not going to replace all games any more than RPGs replaced all other kinds of games, or any, like, they're still making adventure games despite the fact that they have action adventure games. Like, it's not going to replace things, but I do think it's going to grow because it's really interesting.
Now, I said I was ill earlier. That's me having what I like to call a flucation, right? That's where you get to stay at home, watch episodes of...
Is that what your doctor told you?
Yeah, you get to watch episodes of Mobile Armored Strike Command and Teenage Mutant Ninja Hero Turtles, and do all that sort of stuff. But like Dan, Chris, you've actually had holidays, right? You've actually been sending pictures from beaches, and also Chris from interesting places. Dan, where have you been?
I went to the sunny island of Majorca, to the lovely town of Alcudia in the north of the island.
Is it now? Now, Dan? Which one's the shithole? Is it Majorca or Menorca?
Well, I think you're probably maybe thinking about an area of Majorca referred to. Well, I say referred to. It's its name. Magaluf.
Yes, I've heard of Magaluf. There's a TV series about Magaluf, isn't there?
Possibly. You would know, Flucation Boy.
It's a documentary on BBC 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
But where I went was delightful and lovely.
Okay.
But I was on holiday in Majorca, lying by the beach, lying by the pool, sunning myself up.
Yeah.
Having a lovely time, drinking on the beach, having some nice food. Do
you drink on the beach, Dan?
I have done.
Aren't you worried about dehydration?
No, not when you're on an actual vacation, not your flucation nonsense.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I sit there, I lie on the beach, I lie on one of the beds under a nice umbrella, sometimes in a bit of shade, listening to various podcasts and audiobooks. And I was listening, this holiday, I listened to the BBC radio adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere novel, which was really good.
Is that any good?
Yeah, starring James McAvoy in the lead, Natalie Dormer, Benedict Cumberbatch. And it was really, really good. Really, really enjoyable. I've not listened to that many radio plays. Audiobooks I've listened to quite a few of, but radio plays I've not listened to that many of. And it was just a really well-produced, kind of really great cast of voice actors who told like a really interesting story. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Neverwhere. Is anyone?
Yeah, I've read. I have, I think, 2 copies of the book somewhere in the house here, but I haven't actually read the book. I've read the comics adaptation that was done maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, there was. I'm aware of that. I remember there being a comic adaptation. There was a TV adaptation as well. Basically, the I won't go into the whole detail of the plot, but the crux of the idea behind the story is that below the streets of London there is a mystical version of London called London Below, and one of the interesting things they do is they use all the stations of London and they twist the names to create something in London Below. So, for example, the station of Knightsbridge becomes this kind of really dark, kind of mysterious bridge underneath where you have to cross through the darkness and things are trying to grab you and stuff. So it's really kind of very, very, very much in terms of the Neil Gaiman sense of storytelling, and kind of both me and my wife were listening to it. I'd split the headphones, so we were both lying on the beach.
You're a gentleman.
We both exactly. Actually, no, I bought a splitter because I wanted to keep all the headphones for myself. So I bought a splitter so we could both share. And yeah, absolutely, it was just really nice lying on the beach, basically having someone tell me a story. It was delightful.
That does sound really nice. I also went on a holiday recently, but I've realised I've kind of gotten to the age / I'm slightly overworked, whereby I went with Chrissy, my other half in her family, and it was kind of the dream holiday because there was Chrissy's dad, who's in his 60s rather, and Chrissy's sister and her wife, who have a brand new baby who's about 6 months old, and Chrissy's brother, who has a disability and tends to head to bed early as well. So it was perfect. Everybody went to bed at around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then I just played cards for about 40 minutes with a glass of whiskey, and then could also go to bed. It was the dream, you guys.
Oh my god, that sounds so good.
What an idyll.
So what you're describing, Dan, is perfect.
See, the issue I have with my holiday was, though, in a place like Majorca, people go out for dinner at 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's when kind of you go out for dinner, so that kind of ruins that. So you're finishing dinner at around 11:30. You want more drinks then, and it just throws your whole system off. It really does. It's such a horrible situation.
And are you and Holly still wearing the headphones, Dan? Just walking around, can't obviously stray too far away from each other because you've got the splitter and
absolutely.
things.
I afterwards, because I enjoyed it so much, I started listening to the adaptation of Lord of the Rings as well.
Oh, I've got that on tape with Ian Holm.
Yeah.
And the great Michael Hordern as Gandalf.
Indeed.
Chris, where did you go?
I went to Munich, which is a crazy rock and roll town, but I went on a stag do. Mine wasn't a very relaxed event. Ooh. It was fantastic, though. It was absolutely brilliant. But, I am a cider drinker. I don't drink beer. I haven't drunk beer in about 10 years. And I realised when I went to Munich that cider is largely an abstract concept. So the amount of times I said, can I have a cider? And I just said, beer. I said, no, have you got any cider? Beer. And I just had to lump it. So I had I drank more beer in 1 weekend than I have done in about a decade. Out of Steins, these huge, litre kind of tankards is what you go for. I had the whole German experience. First night, walk in, served by a lady in, traditional German dress. There's a guy in lederhosen, part of an Umpar band. You know, there's me with my schnitzel and my sausages. I had about 14 pretzels, each one about the size of my head. And it was really nice. My friend Rob, I went to school with, he's getting married in October. And it was a great way to hang out with some of my old schoolmates. And one of my mates, Chivers, who's a bit of a legend,
Right.
He basically, the first night, he slept in a hedge. And the last night, he slept on a massive pile of bins outside the hotel.
Is he related to Oscar the Grouch? Or
No, he's an extraordinary figure. He just gets into ridiculous situations. Like, he drank an enormous amount. By the time we landed and he met us at the airport, he'd already had 2 steins of beer. He went out, he had another 6 steins. Then he had 2 pitchers of Guinness.
Obviously.
On top of that, and he was absolutely fine.
When in Germany.
and he was fine.
Yeah, absolutely fine. He's extraordinary.
That would kill me.
And and the looks we got from the locals when they saw him downing them, it was like we were the Avengers and we brought the Hulk. And it's because it's bottomless. It's extraordinary. I've never seen anything quite like that.
No. It was like you were English and you were acting as English people act.
No, we
when
were very polite. Actually, very polite. We met some really cool people there. Munich's a really great, friendly city. But my highlight was on the Sunday. We just discovered this the Garden of Eden. It's called it's called the English Garden. This big park, and there's a shallow river that runs through it. And it was about 30 degrees, and there are people sunbathing along the side of this river, people playing in the water and stuff. And 3 of us, we just went for a swim in the river, and it was fantastic. I just swam in this really nice shallow river, swimming under a bridge and stuff. It was amazing. It was just really idyllic. I mean, we did throw the groom's kind of clothes in the river for him to have to go in and get, because he's getting married to a stag, that kind of thing.
Oh, you scallywags.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I am the epitome of lad culture.
You are. I think of lad culture, and the first thing I think of is you.
It fitted like a hand to a glove.
You're all about the mad bants.
Yeah, but no, it's really. I tell you what, I'm going to go back. I really love Munich, and I've actually acquired a real nice fondness for beer, and I am actually quite tempted by it now. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe don't drink beer over here, because it's not what you think it is.
No, it is quite strange. It's like when I went to I never really drank Guinness, and it's obviously I went to Ireland and I had a Guinness, and it was the best Guinness I'd ever had. Obviously,
it was like when I went to Majorca, I drank loads of Fanta lemon.
Yeah, it's just like that.
It's exactly the same as that.
An Englishman abroad.
Oh, sorry, Fanta limon.
Limon. Fanta Arabiata. Oh, God.
That was Staying In with me, Daniel Frost, Kris Darby, Peter Willington, and our special guest, board game producer Duncan Molloy. Duncan has many irons in the fire, and among other things, he has been working on the new edition of the classic board game Escape from Colditz, which comes out in November, so be sure to check that out. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Mixcloud, Acast, Spreaker, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to leave a review too, we'd be really grateful. It's a great way for other people to hear about our stuff. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to the comics, games, movies and more covered in this and all of our episodes, and come find us on Twitter on @StayingInPod. Thanks for listening.